Coming up, what is gray rocking and how will it help you neutralize the narcissist in your life? That's coming up right now on Depraved and Debaucherous. I'm King of Podcasts. Thanks for being with me. Gray rocking. Now, I feel like when I've had my own cases where I was that nice guy in my 20s, where I was trying to listen, I'm going to admit, I was probably being very manipulative when it came to a woman that I felt like I wanted to get closer to and wanted her to go out with me. I know I did things like that. I'm not denying it. Well, there was the whole idea where some woman did cut contact with me and left and got out of the whole thing altogether, and which is what the story talks about. But there's a method which I feel like I probably have gone through myself when I was in my 20s about gray rocking. So when you want to go ahead and get rid of a narcissist and you don't buy it or you don't respond back to the cues he's trying to put at you to make you, respond back to him so he continues to manipulate you and hold his dominance or his will over you, then this is what you go and do. Okay. And the story here, not everyone can escape a toxic relationship, especially when it involves coworkers, in-laws, or co-parents. It's not even relationships they're saying. They're talking about when it comes to coworkers, in-laws, or co-parents. And coworkers. You know what? I could tell you about a TV station I used to work at where I had that kind of issues where there were definite narcissists I had to go and deal with there. I believe that for sure. So anyway, relationship and mental health experts recommend an alternative in setting boundaries with these people called gray rocking or gray walling. So the idea is being as disengaged and unresponsive as possible. Silent treatment. The goal is to keep your responses limited in order to make the person you are communicating with you lose interest. It's, quote, when somebody tries to make themselves as boring and non-reactive as possible to decrease the amount of provoking or emotional reactions. Because when somebody doesn't give the manipulator the responses they want, they're no longer able to push their buttons. Now, I would be careful about this because if you do this, what is being said by this licensed mental health counselor, Deborah Ashway, you could trigger the narcissist right there. That person that you're trying to go and push them back, something could happen right there. And so that could be something that you want to be careful and be aware that might happen. So how does it work, they say? Well, some examples include avoiding eye contact, maintaining a flat tone of communication, or responding with simple answers like yes, no, or I didn't know that. Or you know what's the best one if you're doing text? Thumbs up. I know people use that, and it's very much just like an annoyance than anything else. Holly Richmond, a licensed therapist, a family and marriage therapist, she says, the first step is to visualize yourself as a gray rock. You're this immovable, impenetrable force who's disinterested. If they ask you a question, say yes or no, and don't give details about your life or admit you're practicing this gray rock method. I mean, if you know somebody that knows who you are, this is going to be tougher because you're saying to yourself, okay, how are you going to get that person to, if they know you very well, they could very well say something that will get you to trigger. So it's trying not to trigger yourself. How are you going to make that happen? How's that possible? So there's those who are co-parenting after separation that may want to opt in for a slight variation called yellow rocking, involving the infusion of a little more emotion and communication. Quote, you can't be a complete robot in front of your kid. So yellow rocking infuses a bit more emotion that goes beyond the flatness of gray rocking. So instead of just saying yes, no, you say, oh, wow, I didn't know. Thank you so much. And here's what she says about being dangerous to gray rock. Well, the method could aggravate them more because they're not getting the reaction they're used to. They may feel their power slipping or their control over you waning, and they might double down on the manipulation tactics they use to provoke a reaction out of you. Yeah, when I wanted a girl that could get a little bit closer to me, and I wanted to, I was just getting started to get to know her, and I wanted her to, fall for me. Yeah, of course that's what you do. You double down. When you're not getting what you want, that tendency does come up to mind. Nice guys will do that. I know it. There will need nice guys when you get together, and after they've shown you a great time and they've shown the good in them that they've put out there, as a facade, right? It's been fictitious for the most part. Could you imagine what you're going to go through right there if you try to go ahead and after a while going out with them? Because the thing is, it's this. When you start seeing triggers with a guy who is being manipulative and narcissistic, I mean, if you see those red flags, you've already gotten that point where you've already been together for a while and you feel so good and you feel in love with that person. I know it's tough for you to go ahead, ladies, I know it's tough for you to go and say no to the guy and listen, and even go to this point where like the guy's he might snap a little bit, his temper might go off, and you might make excuses for it. But you can't let yourself get to the point where, I mean, yes, if you want to try here of gray rocking and trying to keep short, stiff answers and show you're not interested in talking to that person, and you do that and hope that things will change, no matter what, a nice guy, when they start feeling everything changing and they start realizing, oh, she's not responding as she once did. I mean, it's not that easy for a nice guy to go away from that. They're going to double down. They're going to be insistent. They're going to be persistent, and they're going to keep going. And they will cave you into pressure. Because remember, some of you young girls, you've already been used to having peer pressure from girlfriends or from girls that were like picking on you, or from guys that want to try to go out with you. Those guys were manipulating too. But when you let yourself get locked in with a guy, and then they don't show that to you because they show you that after the fact, and then you get caught into the trap, and then you realize, oh no, this guy is toxic, and now I'm stuck here, and you want to deny that he's toxic. You want to deny that he's anyway like those other guys. Oh, it can't be him. He's been so sweet. He's been wonderful. I love him so much. Well, even then, if this gray rocking method doesn't work, you're going to have to realize you have to get out, and that you basically need to evaluate every time you go out with somebody and just realize, okay, was there anything that made me feel like I felt uncomfortable, or did I feel like that maybe something that he said made me a little peculiar? I hate to say it, but you got to question everything now. Question everything when you're in a relationship. When you get started, be detailed about it. I know people want to just let the love take control, but you know what? Be like a man and, throw some logic in there. You can't let your emotions take the best of you. So young ladies out there, when you get caught with a guy who's a narcissist, you got to have a mix of a bit of logic and emotion. You got to realize that your emotion can take you down a path, and your emotion might not always have the best for you. It's like the devil or angel. Sometimes you need to listen to the angel saying something to you and saying, listen, something's not right. Something's fishy. If it helps you, and listen, maybe you're going to miss out on a great guy. You could. But if it's early on and you can detect it early, confront it. Because, there has to be other guys where you can feel there's nothing to lose and you can get out of it. And you don't have to feel like that you're going to be there and that's the best you're going to get, especially with girls that feel like they're not attractive and their self-esteem has been shattered. You got to look at yourself the same way as any other girl out there, because you have as much beauty and as much countenance as any other girl out there, that even though you might have the confidence, you have to believe in your gut, and you have to realize you can't just fall into the whole trap of saying well, this guy has been so wonderful to me. And then you ask yourself the question, so this guy's been so wonderful for me. Are you saying to yourself, because there's no other guy that would do that? When the truth is, there's lots of guys that will. But you also, if a guy's going to be nice to you, it's got to be for the right reason. You got to see the genuine traits, and you need to test those genuine traits as well. So don't just take the goodness of a guy's heart and just totally believe it. Yeah, I know you're going to question it, but that's even with the guys you feel very comfortable with and you're already falling in love with. There's a difference. When there's a guy that you're like, okay, nice guy, and you're kind of letting him, you're giving him the time of day. And then there's the guys you're very attractive to that could be bad and might not be good for you. You need to question them as well, so that you don't get caught up in the trap. Because high school and growing up as a teenager, going into a young adult doesn't prepare you. Like you're coming out of that peer pressure phase and going to college and then going into the career field. You're going to get caught up in something where brothers, sisters, family members never can prepare you because they won't tell you anything ahead of time about what can happen to you. And I would be concerned about that. Anyway, that's how I'm going to leave it. In the meantime, just know that when you are getting together with somebody, this should be something that shouldn't have to happen unless things are starting to go downhill quick. Because if you're already at this point, then you know something is wrong, and you want to make sure that somebody else knows that you're having to do this method because of the partner you're with, you feel like has become toxic. Because that toxicity, when it starts coming in, don't hold it in. And go to somebody you feel like is not going to judge you, an objective person. Loved one, family member, whoever you feel like you can go to that you're not going to get judged or blamed about. So that they'll give you the right advice without feeling like you can't go to them because the repercussions of you going to them in the first place. And just enjoy yourselves, and don't beat yourself up, because we all should beat ourselves up because we all have our own flaws because we're all a little depraved and debaucherous.